What's going on, everybody?
Hello.
Yo, thanks for stopping in. We got another podcast for you, coming in hot. I couldn't tell you the number, but we've been going for pushing a year, so happy almost a year, buddy.
Yeah.
Sweet. Hey, well, we got Jason Newberry from Parker McCollum's camp. What's going on, man?
What's up?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Man.
Doing well.
We're good, dude.
Snowy Kentucky.
That's right. And apparently snowy Texas, so...
No snow, just all the cold temperatures, man. So.
Oh, right on. You'll get some, right? You usually get like a dusting, right?
Yeah, I guess it was 2 years ago, we had they call it the snowpocalypse, which was just like a week of snow, and no one knew what to do. So
Yeah.
the grocery stores are empty, and the sun's bright and shining right now, but it's like 20 degrees. So
I love it.
It seems like
too bad.
Kentucky's right on the edge. It's still considered the South, but the moment we get 1 to 3 inches, people stop knowing how to drive and they freak out and they buy all the stuff from the stores.
It's over, dude.
It's like the 3-inch mark we should be adept at this point. It happens every year, multiple times a year.
Oh, yeah. People lose their minds. But you know what?
School always gets canceled.
Yep.
For 2
Keeps
inches
you
of
alive.
snow.
It makes you feel alive, right?
Yeah.
that's right, man. That's
Yeah,
right.
dude. Well, so I guess we would have ran into each other and first met what I think was maybe 2 years ago. Well, we did a little run with you guys.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think we just did a weekend out. I don't know if we played 1 weekend or 2 weekends together, but I want to say it was. I know exactly where it was. It was. We did for sure JJ's live in. Was it Little Rock? Fayetteville? Is it Fayetteville?
That's like Columbus, isn't it?
Oh gosh, I don't even know.
Bum, bum.
I'm pretty sure. I know we did an Arkansas show because that's the only time I've been to Arkansas. Best pit barbecue I've ever had.
I think it is actually. Yeah, I could be wrong.
Wherever
Sorry,
that was,
JJ's.
and then did we do Bethel Woods with you, or was that somebody else? Maybe I can't remember. I couldn't tell you. But good shows all around either way. So what?
Are you like 0 for 2
I
right
think
there?
the main thing, the main takeaway that I remember from meeting you was you were wearing a Braves hat.
Oh yeah, dude.
Right.
And I was also happened to be wearing a Braves hat that day, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Did we just become best friends?
Dude,
I mean, it was either that or
Oh, yeah.
like who's wearing the hat during the show, But I think we both did it, and it worked out great.
yeah. There's room for multiple hats,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Man.
Everybody's
I always
got a head.
appreciate a Braves fan, so that's always good.
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. So I guess a long time ago, I stayed in touch, dude, and just following like your camp's trajectory has been crazy, man. Because those shows were big, but I feel like now you guys are doing just across the country arenas, right?
Yeah, I mean it's everything from like a nice theater to like Arrowhead Stadium type stuff, or like Houston Rodeo, right? So it kind of spans a lot of support gigs. For like the stadium stuff is like usually like direct support, and then we also tour pretty extensively around that just as a headliner, and that's a lot of anything from like used like a minor league hockey arena type setup, right, where it's like 10,000 people and then everything down and up from there. So
dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride though, for sure.
Nice. So you guys stay pretty busy through the year. How long have you been with Parker?
Man, it's going on. This will be 10 years. I think this year. Maybe it was last year, but I think it was this year. This year's
right
10.
on, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's sick. So I guess for people that maybe don't know about Parker, like we have listeners that are kind of into all genres, but so you guys are Texas based almost entirely. I know your drummer buddy John is out of Nashville, but are you guys officially like a Texas based crew?
Yeah. We have, I think maybe our tour manager and our drummer are both based in Nashville right now.
Nice.
And then everybody else is pretty much, I think we have a couple crew guys out of state that fly in from Oklahoma, but everybody else is Texas, pretty much central even, got a couple guys in Houston, a couple guys in Dallas, Fort Worth, I think. But yeah, man, pretty much rolling Texas crew.
Dude, nice. Yeah, that's cool, man. The Texas music scene is just something that people in Kentucky don't understand. Like it's just totally a different touring, a different ball game and everything. So that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably because you never have to really leave the state, like if you don't want to, it's just large enough. It's just, there's enough bars and places to sustain just kind of local touring. Even, you know, we did that for a few years. It was just, you know, going to Lubbock's an 8-hour drive sometimes. So it's like, why go farther?
Yeah, I feel like I've heard over the past few years a lot of people being like, you know, if you want to be a musician and get on a tour, like Nashville is kind of old news. A lot of people are heading to Austin or heading to Dallas, like heading to Texas in general. I don't know how true that rings, but that's what I've always heard.
Man, I'm telling folks to go to Nashville at this point.
Nice.
In a way. I mean, I think that you can tour hard in Texas, and it probably is it's one of the best ways to kind of cut your teeth into living the road life, and they can sustain, you know, like bus tours and stuff out of Texas. But you know, once we started like renting buses, it was like those are all done mostly in Nashville. You know, if you want to get that setup, and then buses always go home to Nashville. So
bus calls in Nashville too, I guess.
Well, we're kind of flying and meeting the buses now because they don't ever come home. It seems like they're just going from show to show. So, you know, we'll fly out to a city and then get picked up on them and then have to ride them around, you know, show to show. And that's almost more enjoyable than flying these days. I just look forward to busing, getting on the bus and chilling, you know?
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of airport time. But you know, it's been cool. But I definitely tell people that, you know, some of the musicianship in Nashville, you can't find it in Texas, as far as like just throwing a rock and hitting a player, you know. Austin kind of pivots towards that, like just hiring the acoustic guitar guy in the bar window and calling it done now, you know, unfortunately. But there's still a pretty good vibrant scene. It's just underground more.
Yeah, it's like when you're in Nashville, you're like, you go to a coffee shop and the barista that just made you coffee is better than you at bass. And you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah. No,
or at least that's my experience.
Yeah, I mean, you'll just run into somebody on a gig that's playing at 4 p.m. and it's like, damn, okay, like, you know, the chops are there for sure. It's like, you know, I think it's just saturated more in Nashville for sure than in Austin, at least.
Yeah, me and Nick were talking about also just seeing in some of his recent like playing on Broadway stuff, seeing some big bass players or guys just off of like big tours that are just back and clocking into their Broadway shift. Not, you know, I would assume it's not really for the money. It's because that's the lifestyle there too.
Yeah.
There's a certain like, you just go and play and it's fun and you semi-wing half of it. You know all the Nashville standards, but there's also a lot of just winging it with some great musicians that are able to do that.
Totally.
Well, you can make a living too, and you know, playing Nashville if you work it hard enough on the Broadway scene, even just alone. I mean, you can. There's not really a residency system like in Austin where you can just go sit there for 4 hours a couple days a week and just, you know, pull in that kind of money. They just don't pay it. You know, the clubs won't. So a lot of sound ordinances going on too. You know, like downtown venues, and they're fighting the city, and then, you know, a year later it gets resolved, but that place has already gone out of business by then, or stopped having live music. So you know, it's kind of interesting. But I lived there for, I guess, 7 years, and we just moved a little farther south, and you know, it's nice to kind of step back from the city, you know, the way we have, for sure.
Yeah, well, let's talk about what's actually on everybody's mind, gear.
Let's nerd out. It's time.
No, it's time.
So I became aware of you via Nick, who's like, man, you got to check this guy out. He's awesome, has great taste in gear, insane player.
It's true. I can say that stuff.
All those things from afar are absolutely true. So,
well, thank you.
I'm the most curious. You have a lot of amp rigs. Tell me about your preferences in that area. I saw Mesa for a while. I've seen some Jad Freer. I don't know. I feel like you're changing that a lot, and it's super cool. Yeah,
I mean, so I guess I'll preface it by saying, like, changing your rig in the middle of these tours kind of it's hard, like from a predictability standpoint, right? So like we get like the sound check, and then if you want to make a tweak to something, you might have a little window like of 10 minutes where you can grab your sound guys and say, all right, how does that sound? You know, and they're like, shit, you know, or like, no, it's awesome. You know, keep rocking it. But yeah, I don't know. We had kind of a situation open up on stage where I got to play with some more channels. You know, usually you get that one channel or maybe two if you get like a mic situation, and front of house can take what he likes, right? So I ended up was like, man, I'll end up bi-amping these things. I'll start there. I'll try to send them a dry and a wet, you know. So I'll just have the Jad Freer, that Sisma amp that they put out, I guess, about a year ago. I'm running that like as my clean kind of dry channel. Little bit of tube stuff going on, but it's, you know, it's a preamp tube, and it breaks up nice when it does, kind of smooth. Little bit of glass on top, but it's pretty much a protected dry signal. And then I'll just goose that Mesa head like with whatever I can throw into it. I mean, just slam it. And, you know, I guess front of house is just taking a blend, kind of running them parallel, and then as he needs to, if it's a little grindy, he'll, you know, duck some of that out. But I've loved that. I mean, as far as like front of house, he seems to like it, and then my ears just have cleaned up. My ear mix, you know, it has just turned around a little bit, because you can really lean on, you know, that wet channel and really kind of stick through things, you know.
So both of these are DI signals off of the amps. Okay,
yeah, they're both no straight out the back of the amp. Yeah.
And then what are you hearing out of your cab?
So, you know, in a perfect world, I guess you could kind of have a crossover, or like, you know, have two amps that split the signal and you get both. But right now, I just have
complicated too, though.
it is, you know, and so right now I just have the wet signal coming out of it.
Yeah, because you really only need, like, you're not listening to it. There's no mic on it. You need whatever you can feel with your in-ears, assuming you're using in-ears.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's like I'm on a riser right now, and sometimes that my setup is like on that riser with me, which is great. I mean, it's like you can feel, you know, right under your feet. But the wet signal retains enough low end that you can feel it. Like, it moves air. It's not just, you know, it's country music. It's not like, you know, when I say it's a lot of gain and saturation, it's really not a whole lot. Most people's standards, right? But for me, I was like, damn, really pushing the envelope here, you know?
Yeah, when I am fortunate enough to have like a DI signal, which is, for me, it's off my pedal board, and then there's a rig, but the rig's not mic'd, and there's no DI signal for the mic, I just take out like all the highs and just have it to where it's just like kicking my butt every now and then as I play, and get it like the lowest volume I can stand it, you know, and then usually front of house doesn't yell at me either, because they never know.
Well, yeah, you got to protect the stage volume too, you know?
Yeah.
For sure. And they don't, we have so much distortion. Like, we have sometimes 4 guitar players all playing at once, and a guy on, you know, keys, organ, synth.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's so much happening distortion wise already, you know, that it's like, how much of that do I really want to lean into and contribute to that? So the dry signal really is like, as long as that's always available, just go nuts, and he can just duck out as much of the wet as he wants, you know, from front of house. But, you know, I think for the last 2 or 3 years, I was just running them out of that Capo pedal, just the direct outs from that. I just had a wet and a dry straight out, and just kind of looped them a certain way, and that worked great, you know. But I just had the room for the amps, and, you know, why not kind of use them? So,
where'd you find out about that? Also, Jason's the one, to remind people who watch our videos, Jason sent us his Capo pedal because he liked it so much, and now we both bought one.
I say evangelizing.
I mean, that's pretty.
I love that, man. I love that.
That's quite the testament. And to how fun it is.
Yeah, and it's funny because it seems like you were like just that much ahead of it, because now everybody's like in on it.
Yeah.
I mean, lately it's just all these videos and reviews and stuff have just popped up.
We've never had a pedal review have so many views in 24 hours.
Yeah, it just
48 hours. It's like 3,000 views. Yeah, for a pedal, that's a lot for it.
Yeah, like, for us, because, you know, we're just a year into this, and we were like, oh,
that's
man,
insane.
But it like I said, it's just like a bunch of people had released about now, which is funny because it's been out for a minute, right? I mean, you've been on it for how long?
A couple of years. I mean, I think I stuck it in my board the beginning of our last tour last summer. So I mean, and I was like, I don't know what serial number. I got one sitting over here, but
13.
No, I mean, that's like the Tim LaFave. You know, he's got like number 1 or something. I was like, you know, but that's kind of how I got into them, honestly, was like, I think I followed Tim, and it was right when they sent him that pedal. And what initially drew me to it, and this has almost never happened with pedals with me, was the way it looked. I love the aesthetic for some reason. And it really, like, it just was like, man, it's a sharp looking box. And I was in the market for some DIs and kind of preamp stuff. And, I mean, before that, I really toured with like a tuner into my amp for about 9 years, probably 7 years. I was just, you're getting the tone out of the back of the amp, and we're going to love it. And
which is that, sweet. It's such a statement.
I mean, maybe that's the way to go too sometimes, like you're working backwards, but I don't know. It just opened the board up a lot too. I could play with different tones, and the more I looked into it, I was like, man, I'll spring for one. And you're paying like the import tax. It's coming from Italy.
Yeah. And it's not a cheap pedal.
But it's not, right? No. But you can talk to everyone up and down the company if you have questions. I mean, they're like, and I kind of pitched it to them. I was like, look, man, we're touring a lot, and I'd love to rock it because it satisfies my need. And, I already bought one. So, I just wanted to make contact with them, be on their radar a little bit. And man, it's a husband and wife that kind of make and manufacture and design them all. And then, y'all probably spoke to Andre. He's like the artist guy, the artist rep guy. And, him and I have had a dialogue running for, probably like 2 years on just like random shit. Like, hey, can I loop it this way? And, is that really like a protected, balanced out on this side? And, he's like, yeah, we'll get right back to you. So,
and he's an insane bass player himself.
Yeah, he's great.
Jazz a lot of times, it seems like.
Yeah.
But man.
But I mean, like, I'm so far from that like world right now. Like the guy, the Tim LaFave stuff, it's like he's got subs engaged all the time. He's running octaves, he's got phasing stuff happening. I'm just so not into that world, but it's just I guess a testament to what you can kind of repurpose things to however you want them to if they're smart gear,
Oh man, we need to get a like peep your settings post up. We gotta figure out how you were dialing that in when that was your main tone source.
As I'd say, mine's even changed here recently as I've played it more, because I haven't actually been out with my Nashville gig at all, like my road gig. I've just been doing
closed down for the winter.
Yeah, buddy. Doors shut. But I mean, I haven't taken it on the road at all. But I've done like just like bar stuff and just taking the amp, and I literally just take it out that, and then I just dime the amp in the corner, and I've been so happy. Like it's just like kid in a candy shop with it, because it's just the grit that it gets in the coolest way. I mean, saturation is that word anyways, but yes, we got to see those settings.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing though. Like it was kind of just a work in progress for about a year, because it's when it's a double-edged sword. When something is hard to get like real bad tones out of, you're just constantly fucking with it. So it's like, because it's like, man, it can go a little bit cooler in that direction, and it's got the gain setting on that thing. Like people don't let it out of the bag enough, You got to let that gain knob fly sometimes.
Oh yeah, I'm much more liberal with it. Like when I set it at home, like on just like my monitors, my Yamahas, I just was like, okay, this is cool. And then I get like in person, I'm like, oh, this is nowhere near. Like you can really get away with a lot because
it's smooth.
I was say it's so unoffensive.
Yeah, it's not. In some ways, it's there. This isn't a like hating on dark glass or something like that, but the dark glass stuff, it all has this really specific scoopy distortion sound that is cool for some stuff, especially sometimes like pick playing that might get a little whatever, unpredictable.
We get that scrape in there.
Yeah. It's like this is the opposite of the dark glass sound. I feel like
no, I mean and for a while I had I guess it's like a vintage deluxe dark glass, like that big silver box. I had that with like as my kind of more like heavy distortion, a little more grease setting, and I was like, man, it's a big box, and I already have the DI, and it's another 2-knob pedal, and I was only using it for a couple of tunes, and so I leaned into like that B side, that kind of FET distortion, and added a little bit of that, like I use it more like as a clean boost now, for like when I'm playing kind of pick stuff, or lose a little bit of ass on on songs, you know, with just kind of heavy pick playing. So
totally.
That's kind of how I used it last weekend too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
right. And you're taking it straight off just straight out the DI, right? Or are you taking it out your Noble? I can't remember which. He's like he's like chefing like this recipe with the most expensive preamps possible.
I'm like, I'm in the midst of a pedal board build or planning a pedal board build.
It's a scheme.
It's also crazy how expensive it's gotten. Like just the wire and the connectors. Yeah. Man, so now I'm not pulling the trigger on it just yet, but I'm planning. Anyway, I've always been a Noble preamp guy. Still am. I think the Capo complements the Noble. And in the studio, it seems like people are more willing to have the Noble be my tube DI, and then I'll run that into my like B15, and it's what everybody expects, but I'm able to kind of secretly juice the B15 a little bit and with a different kind of EQ to make it a little bit more modern feeling. So I like that as my front end, and it's kind of that whole concept of buffering, like going right into a big old tube amp. The Noble is going right into my tube amp, you know, I do have a tuner in front of it. It's a Peterson. And so like you can hear the relay click off when it gets out of the way of the signal, which is pretty awesome. So all that to say, since I've not had a pedal board set up recently, I realized I don't really have a power supply because my Noble was my power supply.
This is crazy.
So I have a couple instances of showing up somewhere
with a Trader Joe's bag.
Well, and with a little like canvas tote, which I've never thought I'd actually use one of these free canvas totes people give. And I spill my pedals out real quick, and my Noble has been my power supply.
Just like
all the, it hasn't even been in the chain.
I'm just like $3,000 worth of pedals in a bag, like a loose lunchbox. And I'm just like, oh no! We got another buddy. It was like a church morning. It was a Sunday morning. Pulls a quad Cortex out of a guitar gig bag. I'm like, you guys are crazy, dude.
Oh man, it's just a bunch of people trying to be hipsters. We're just all like coming in.
Somebody punched through a wall just hearing that you use that for just a power. So there's someone on like a 7-year waiting list. Just
are you kidding me?
You know?
Yes, dude. They're just mistreating the Noble while they're just waiting.
Yeah, a 7-year waiting list, and they paid the $500 rush fee.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Insane.
But that is a testament, you know, like you're saying, that people expect the Noble sound, but they also just don't see, 8 knobs on a box and go like, shit, you know, it's just not to your point, it's an expected tone kind of thing. It's just totally, and it's always usable. So.
I certainly rolled my eyes at all the options at first. I was like,
yeah,
I'm more and more into the simple pedals. And then the first thing that got me was the EQ points are really great. I think the bass frequency is at like 80. I think the bass frequency of the Noble is at like 60 or whatever an SVT bass knob is. But like, to me, it's like reinterpreting some of the magic of like an SVT that I really enjoy, because it's like, if the bass knob is boosting like 40 or 60, something like that, like super low, the 810 cab it's paired with could never really replicate those frequencies very well. So they come out as something different, something a little bit higher, because it's rolling the extreme subs off. I mean, 810 does not go as low as you. No. Do you do like, you have Mesa 212s? Was that what you use?
Yeah, I'm doing a 212 setup, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I bet an Ampeg 810, the old ones, do not even go as low as what your rig is right now, you know?
I doubt it, yeah. I doubt it.
It's an interesting bass frequency space to navigate. But
they rip off a lot of like API style stuff too, with their EQ,
which I think
love.
for the mid,
you don't see that. You don't see a ton of that. Like, we got this from, when you think bass tone, you're not always thinking like API.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just a good, like you're saying, I mean, it's smart. It's like, I think on the Sisma amp it's like the volume is like calibrated a certain way. So like most amps, like as soon as you get to like noon, you may be at like 70% already. It's like kind of a loudness game. Like, the knobs aren't always, aren't that accurate in this thing. I mean, like you just keep turning knobs, and if you're a tactile knob guy, man, I mean, it just, you know,
that's actually my gamer tag on Xbox is tactile knob guy.
No. Is it really?
Man, I need to steal that.
No. I'm out there at Rocket League just killing tactile knob guy.
I was like, man, I knew you guys were a little bit nerdy, but god damn, Nick. Tactile knob, man.
Tactile knob guy. No, dude. We're trying to figure out a way to get a hold of one of those Sismas because we are both so interested in that stuff.
The Coda is like just a power amp, practically.
Yeah.
Sisma, they bill as a B15 front end API EQ situation. It's not that loud, right? Is that correct? Or like not super high wattage?
I want to say maybe it's like 700.
Oh, okay. That's enough for me personally.
Yeah, I've never gotten, I mean, again, you're talking, protecting stage volume. I mean, if it's something that needs to like be the moving force behind your show, if you're not running, if you got really weak subs or something, I mean, and you have to goose it, I've never even taken it that far. I mean, I've never needed too much more than it's had. I mean, I think the cab I have is like rated for 1,000 maybe, and it's just never even come close to needing more than what it's had. I mean, so.
Yeah, they just came out with that big tube amp too. I know this is like, we didn't intend for this entire episode to be Chad Freer
just
propaganda.
Propaganda.
But it is really cool stuff.
No, it's interesting.
I mean, I don't know. I like not working with like, you go to a huge company and you try to like promote yourself as an artist and like, how many views do you have on, or how many followers? Right. And I'm just like, man, I'm running in such a different direction that I just like this fact that they're a small company that makes good shit. Like
totally.
And there's plenty of good preamp options out there. Like,
like as if we needed another preamp.
Yeah, man, it's an enigma with bass players. They're just, they're so hyper focused on preamps. So I guess that's a testament to like how our instrument lends itself to effects, but
totally. And it's such a like feel thing too. Like you just never notice that the preamp imparts a feel while you're playing that can't, when you A/B test stuff, sometimes you can't always tell much of a difference between two really high-end things, but they feel different. Like I feel like when I plug into a Noble, it has like a squishy thing. I don't really know how else to describe it. It does like I don't know. It makes me feel the bass different that I really like. And I still like enough to not give up, but I want to use them in tandem and see if I'm getting the best of both worlds and have that Noble be my clean and push the Capo. But that Volta tube amp is very interesting to me, but I'm
me as well.
Yeah. I will say I'm someone that really, really likes the EQ concept of the littler amp with the API style thing. And it's only, I think, passive bass treble on the Volta. Man, if they make one of those with the same EQ section, I mean, that would have been a try to sell my SVT moment, potentially. But
man, you Carson,
I needed a reason
travel
not
with
to.
an SVT? Are you pretty much
sometimes
on the road with?
It depends, dude. Sometimes I'll be like, "Do you take the SVT?" Be like, "No."
Well, right now it's broken, and it's been broken.
No one's ever said that before. That's so crazy.
It's we'll see what happens. I have it at British Audio in Nashville right now. Mr. JT Cure from Chris Stapleton's band suggested that's where he takes his stuff. Honestly, with SVTs, amps in general, but there's no fixing a lot of the Class D amp stuff right now. It's just like a one-time use thing. If it gets wrecked, usually it's not too expensive to just like completely drain your bank account. You just throw it away and get another one, or try to send it back to the manufacturer maybe
for the new chip.
Yeah, and it's just like a one-time use thing, which I really hate that about the state of technology. But the SVT has seemed to max out the Lexington techs. We've never had great amp techs around here anyways. A lot of them, they'll like it, but they'll do it, but they'll complain a lot, or they'll only do it for a couple years and then they'll they'll either quit entirely and like want to fix laptops only or something like that, or they'll be like, I'm just going to make my own amp company and I'm not taking repairs that are not my amps that come through, which I totally understand. Like it's difficult, and the SVT is a incredibly complicated circuit. It is just hard to work on.
Yeah.
And I think its over engineering is also part of its charm. And anyway, all that to say, I love the EQ on an SVT. It's really cool. It's really flexible. It does kind of a different thing. I have not taken it out very much because this particular one that I have from the 70s breaks all the time. And so this is kind of my last hurrah of taking it to British Audio. I hope that there's maybe like some kind of reliability mods they can do. I've kind of Googled around and like talk-based a little bit about it. Be like, hey, does anybody know, like, just to make this Magnavox era SVT a little bit more stable? And I haven't really come up with specific things, so I'm hoping British Audio lines me out. But it's freaking heavy, and I don't like, I'm not in the position where I can ask somebody where I have like a stage hand to always help me grab it. And I really hate asking my band members to like, hey, will you grab a hand on this? I know that's kind of dumb, but we're in a van. We don't even have a trailer right now. And so I don't like having to ask people. And I don't have it in a road case because it's already freaking heavy. And
it's already, like 90 pounds? Yeah, so the flight case on that thing's going to be another
That's
one,
what they say they are. That's what the new ones say they are. It feels way heavier than 90 pounds. I don't know if mine
Sword
is just
the Stone,
like
dude. Thor's
extra
hammer.
heavy. It is. Maybe it's like how far you have to bend over with your back if it's all the way on the floor and not even on a cab. Maybe that's why it feels extra heavy. But that's
the saying. I think it's like the words to live by. It's just like, man, don't let that thing hit the ground. So like, just keep it on your cab, or find a way for it to travel that you're never having to really use the back, because.
But I mean, you walk into a venue, if there's a foldy table, I can't trust that foldy table.
No. So, even a wooden table to some degree is not going to have the staying power for those things. I mean, like,
so I'm pretty close to resigning it into the studio only. Ampeg made a 212 AV cab within the last few years that can take pretty much the full power of a clean-ish SVT. And so that is a really great studio rig. It still is a little loud, but it's not like 810 loud. So I can safely put a microphone on it. It would be a major bummer to resign it to the studio. I'd be debating on selling it at that point because I have a B15. But if I'm honest, I do like the recorded sound of an SVT a little better than a B15. It's got that like somewhere between clean and dirty hi-fi thing that you can do, and that's always my favorite tone from them.
It's really funny hearing amp people talk about amps because I'm just like, what's that like? Like the only time I bring an amp is bar stuff around town. Like on the road, I don't fool with it. I mean, I should.
Just the board.
It's just the board, dude. I got too much to do to bring an amp.
Yeah.
Plus, I've got the, I don't know if you know about them, but these like Laney Nexus cabs, which are like, they're Line-X'd and they sound phenomenal. But like they're just not specific sizes. Like their 410 is still not like a typical 410. So I can't really just order like a case for a 410 and it for sure fit the way that it needs to fit and actually protect it. So,
and you never get your money back on that stuff.
No. Cases are just the least fun thing to go out and buy too.
Oh my
gosh, to buy a good one, you're talking about, sometimes like mine costs as much as the amp I have in it to get an enclosure for it all, and
you have a full live-in rig.
Man, it's all one. Yeah.
Nice.
It's just like the clamshell. So there's like I got like maybe, I don't know how many rack space above the actual cab is sitting in there. But yeah, our crew was like, man, don't make us move two things. Like, just make us move the one thing. You know what I mean? I was like,
nice.
Yeah, dude.
Keep them happy. So
does it live in Nashville or do you get it back to Texas?
It hadn't been in my house. I don't think it's been in this house ever since I've been in this house. I mean, it's just, I think that Sisma head showed up, and I had about a week to kind of play with it, and then it went in the rack, and then it's been in a trailer for probably frozen for the last week. So.
How's your reliability for that kind of stuff? Like, has any of the amps gone down or?
Man, I've never had an amp really go down on me during a show.
It's awesome
to date. Definitely have wireless issues. Definitely have some wireless stuff. That you can't avoid it, man. It's just going to happen.
Especially if you're doing these downtown arenas. I mean, that's when I see it the most.
Yeah, you have like RF, and like we last year we added like some kind of video wall stuff, right? Well, it's just I'm right in front of it. Yeah, and when all those are firing, man, like I have a bass with one of those Dark Star humbucker, like those Curtis Novak looking things.
Yeah, those are cool.
They're sick, man, but it grabs that freak. It picks up so much noise,
Yeah.
And we kind of tracked it back to a few things, but it's just, the tour is the production on that thing is going to be what it is. So,
Right. Yeah, I picked up we have a couple songs that kind of call for a bass 6. So I just picked up it's an Eastwood TB64. It's like there was a Japanese Tesco company that was making, some weirder competitors for Fender back in the day. This is like a recreation of that. All that to say, the pickups are really low output, and all the bass 6 pickups, including Fender, are very hummy. They are not hum canceling at all. And so I used the bass 6 through my bass rig on a couple tunes that are moderately slow. And right when that volume goes up,
it just comes back, dude. It's a wave behind you.
And to the amount that it's distracting, to the amount that I've had somebody in the audience ask me if something went wrong. And now I'm like,
and you're like, okay,
crap.
Message received.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now I got to gut the thing.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like it's really funny. Like, I've always been like a Strat guy when I do guitar stuff. And I'll have the same rig. It's like just like a pretty standard, like normal drives, not a huge board, straight into a deluxe with the Strat. Some days it's like fine, doable. Like you're going to get the hum a little bit, right? But then some days, same place, and then all of a sudden, as you turn, you're just pulling in 98.1 The Bull, and just like all these like radio stations. And you're like, man, literally like across town, I had none of this.
Yeah.
But something in this spot is just completely disagreeing with these pickups. Like, it's just ridiculous that it's like above science and understanding. Like at some point, I don't get it.
Well, I mean, it is, man, and like our monitor guy is just, he's just picking up signal. I mean, he just constantly scanning stuff, and we play down by the border enough, where there's big towers and there's weird stuff happening at the border, folks. And it's got to do with the RF signals. No, but
we've got it.
Man, you'll be money during sound check, and then you'll put the packs on pre-show, and you're like, okay, they're assembling, or, there's stuff happening, you just can't get rid of it. And it's just every channel, your space for that gets shrinks. And then when you have 4 bands and they're all running wireless, your space shrinks even more. And, so that's always fun to fight with. But
500 million like cell phones have entered your venue between sound check and no fun.
Yeah, dude.
Wireless is a fickle mistress.
Yeah, Speaking of fickle mistresses, let's talk about basses. Let's talk about old basses. Dude, we were talking a little bit, before we started rolling, of like, just when you do like US touring and you like pop out in like certain different states, like the climate is just so different, and there's like no way to prepare a bass for like Florida versus the dryness of Vegas versus back to Charleston, like South Carolina. Like what are we working with?
Man, so the Charleston thing is real, because we had that last year, and we played like a nice like tennis stadium over there, and it rained, nice. I think, all pre-show, and then the sun came out, right? So it just made everything nice and sweltering hot.
Credit One, Capo
I
One.
think that's it.
I played there. Yeah.
It's a
and
slick
it also rained, and it was insane.
If you're playing there anywhere in the spring and summer, man, it's gonna, it's going to mess you up a little bit. I mean, like we have like these little rosin kind of sticks. You can like buy them like I don't know what they're called, but we live and die by them, and you just rub a little rosin on your hand or something just to kind of keep this
like fast fret kind of stuff.
No, it's not like a liquid, or it's not oily. It's like rosin powder, like, you know, like bass players or like baseball players, like pitchers just throw, you know, having the mound for like their hands. And it just, you know, I'm not one of those guys that like sands all my necks down to nothing, you know, like immediately.
Don't tell them.
I probably should, but I mean,
no, that's me.
There's sometimes a little gloss on there, which means you get a little gunk on there. So,
oh yeah, dude. No, dude, there's South Carolina is just like so swampy. It hurts.
It differs a lot too. Like near the beach, and then you're inland a little bit, in Greenville or something. It's way different. I mean, mountains.
We always talk about it, but I always make it a point to like, I can't bring myself to bring like really nice instruments on the road, fully knowing that like one day you're gonna go back and pick it up and it will literally feel like someone dumped water on it. Like I just have so much trouble bringing something crazy. Like I know you guys are into the vintage thing, and I wish I could be, but I'm just like I can't do it.
I'm just like, don't buy it if you're not gonna play it.
Oh, I can't do it, dude.
That's where I'm at.
I just bring an American P bass that if somebody literally walked up, looked me dead in the eyes, and snapped it on their leg, I'd be like, it's an American P bass, dude. We'll get another one.
Well, I mean, I think if you're going to tour hard, you have to have a bass like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's a P bass or, you know, Carson, I see you rocking the Yamaha stuff, but those, you know, those have pretty good staying power. Usually, I mean, they're built well, so you got to have one in the quiver. And then, like, I do some stuff. We have some songs that I have like a D standard tuning in, just for a little more kind of low end ass, and you know, some I try to stay away from playing like open strings too much, but you know, those G3s we were talking about, man, they just kind of sing in that lower register a little bit more.
Yeah, dude.
But again, I mean, those are, I think one's like, I think I have like an 83 and a 78, and the truss rods have gotten so slack that you just, you know, like you're saying, if you go from like a coast to anywhere dry, you know, within a day or two, man, you're looking at some adjustments.
Yeah, like
how bad do I really want to work on my own vintage gear, and you know, mess with the truss rods more than a couple of half turn? I mean, like, you know, they got to the point where I don't know if you know truss rod stuff, but when you're making like half turns,
oh yeah,
you know, just walk away and have an expert look at it, you know. So
that's how I feel. Do you guys have a guitar tech? You probably do, but it sounds like you have a lot of guitars.
Yeah, we have right now we have a tech on either side of the stage just because of how many we have. We hired a utility guy named Will Knack, and he joined up and is playing steel, dobro, guitars. Nice. I mean, lots of stuff. So there's enough changes where we had to have nothing else, just for the handoff, or you know, just to switch guitars on stage. But I don't really change strings. So
neither do we.
My guy's pretty happy with me on that side. But you know, it's just major adjustments, right? Like you can't really do big fret work, and even like, you know, stuff like that on the road is just tough. So I always have like at least a P bass that I know will just withstand it. And it's like an American Special, I think, the one I play the most now. It's not even like a high end one. It's like a weird honey burst color, and you know, I think it was like you can get one for like $1,000 on Reverb right now. I feel like, you know, but it sounds cool. It's like got the old grease bucket system that like Highway 1 used to try to throw in stuff, which is, you know, I don't think it's snake oil, but you know, they use too many words to describe what it does, I think.
Yeah.
But I'll always bring a fun bass or two, and I hope they'll last through the year, but they usually don't. You know, the older stuff just moves around too much, you know.
Yeah.
For us, it's been just trying to stay consistently the same, like as far as something you're comfortable with, what all the other guys are comfortable with, what Parker's used to hearing, you know.
Totally.
You know, throwing in like a whole different bass tone, like for even Parker, you know, as a singer, he kind of sings on bass notes sometimes.
Nice.
Kind of as a reference point, you know. And so if you're throwing out like the G3 tone after you've been playing a P bass, you know, for the last 6 months, he'll look back and be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So, dude, totally. So way back when we met, what we can't decide was maybe 2 years ago in an undisclosed Arkansas city. I'm sure it's Fayetteville now. I'm dead positive. I believe that you were on Lakeland, but at some point that we've played together, you've been playing Lakelands, and I was playing Lakelands, and now I'm not. Where have you, like, do you still play Lakelands? Are they still in your rotation, or have you kind of moved to something different?
I have that, probably the same one that you saw. It was like a PJ.
Yeah.
You had like the 5-string humbucker, like soap bar, right?
Yeah.
I
had a 5502. Well, I still do, and I'm desperately trying to sell it. But then I also picked up just like their version of like the Telly bass, which,
yeah,
dude, it's like BMWs. I couldn't tell you the model name at all. It's just numbers. But it's
right.
it was a Telly bass with like a precision bass, and that one I thought sounded phenomenal. But it's, again, Florida ruined it. So it just, the neck, dude, just kept going up and up and up. And I was like looking, I was like, man, you could really fit like a fist under that action. It's so bad. And I couldn't lower it to get it. And it was angry. So got rid of that one too.
But
yeah.
I've been rocking like just the PJ combo, like Bob Glob looking kind of bass that they make. And I like it. I can't say I love it. It's not like the American custom stuff that they do, right? So I can't really say. The stuff I've played that they do custom shop is phenomenal. But
so it's like
the Skyline series, or I think what it's called, right?
Yeah, the Skyline.
It's a backup bass. I put like quarter pounders in it because the pickups it had were weak, and that was a bad idea. I think pretty bad matchup, and I just don't do well with the quarter pounder stuff either. But
really,
the Seymour Duncan stuff, I don't know why, man. Maybe it's me, but some people swear by them. Some people are like, ooh. But yeah, it's like a backup. It's like a tuned down backup bass for me now. I don't miss it as much on the road when I'm home. So
yeah,
that was a problem for me. Was like, man, you take all your fun stuff out, and then you're left with nothing at home.
Right.
When you are home to kind of, record something or play around a little bit.
That's true.
Yeah. Tell me about your cat bass that I see in the background. How do you like that?
Man, I dig it. I dig it. It's I guess they just made like another one with like 3 pickups.
Right. Yeah.
And this is not that one. This is the humbucker one, and it's cool, man. It's got a pretty vibey thing to it. It's like the lightest bass. It's like picking up a Dan Electro.
Nice.
It's the lightest thing I've ever seen, man, and that was weird for me just to like have it in your hands. And I'm not a huge short scale guy, but it's that like that real dubby thuddy tone that just nails it.
What is your in your experience when you think of a short scale instrument? See, I haven't played enough of them to really know what it's doing. Like, what do you think is the feel of a short scale instrument?
Well, I mean, for the first thing that I always notice is how like floppy they feel, like the string, like the tension's lower, right? So it's like everything just moves so much more. And I pretty much use like low tension strings, not low tension, but they're not real heavy on any of my standard stuff. But I think the tone wise, like the low end is heavier. There's a little more like low endy stuff happening, and I don't know if it's because it's like the oscillation of the shorter string or what it is. I mean, you'll have to ask a smarter man than me, but I feel like people don't always know how to mix that.
Fair.
Like it's mixing a lot of low end stuff is kind of like more of a big boy job. It's like it takes some knowing how to do, and I feel like just running out with a short scale and saying done might not be the safest thing for anything I was doing, but they're cool. It's worth having one, if you can pick one up for cheap just to kind of play on. It's definitely a tone that you can't, get with some standard tune basses, scale basses. So
I'm at this kind of weird crossroads where I was always playing Ernie Ball Cobalt round wounds. That was usually my pick that I really enjoyed. At like a medium high gauge, not the lightest, certainly not the biggest. And really, when I play stainless strings, it was less bad on the Ernie balls, but I would still get a little bit of a rattle because of how hard I play sometimes. And so your action just goes up a little bit, and usually you try to avoid it. Sometimes that's character, but I get weird about that kind of stuff. I have noticed on the short scales I have picked up, I've had a way higher rate of success finding one that doesn't vibrate under my fingers. It feels like that energy with it being low tension, I would expect it to be worse. I would expect I would just like maul it, playing as hard as I do sometimes. But it like dissipates in a really different way that I didn't expect. And also, I didn't realize how low tension strings have also, I thought they would just rattle more. But in my experience, for the way I play, they've rattled a little bit less. Yeah,
and you talk, I guess, with tension too. Like there's gauge and then there's tension, and they're not necessarily like synonymous with each other. Like
Totally.
the thicker string might not be the heavier tension per se, or maybe not as much as you would think. So
right.
But I felt the same way, man, because I thought I was just going to get up there and ham fist this damn thing like a guitar, like a bass player, you know, trying to pick up a guitar, because it feels like that that scale. I mean, the body's real short on this one. Like even Mustangs, you know, they got kind of a squattier little body, and they're, you know, they sit on your lap a little different too. I mean,
totally.
But yeah, I mean, they're just a vibey instrument, man. Like you could, you know, they sound cool through effects too sometimes. I mean.
Yeah,
a little more muscle behind them sometimes, going into like fuzz and stuff too.
It's like a less complex high end like overtone. It's like a little more, I don't know. I hear people say focused. It's like a little bit more fundamental, less like top end fuss that can sometimes people know how to mix it. Sometimes all they know how to do is roll it all off. And so you just, you know, that brilliant top end kind of thing. That's been my feeling, at least.
Yeah, it's funny. I feel like with the Mustangs, like I was always, when I would see them, I was playing guitar in this indie band. So like indie bass players were like, I've got to get the short scale Mustang. Like it's all about the Mustang. But then like you were kind of saying, it's sort of, I don't know, people are always pairing it with these effects. So then you're creating like a totally different thing in general. Like, I don't know. I feel like the Mustang just like brings something out of people.
I think too, it's that one pickup sound. Sometimes maybe it's a little bit of two pickup, but I have certainly had like the EHX micro synth pedal. All the worship guys love that pedal.
They do.
It would freak out on me if I was using a two pickup bass and round wounds. Like those things, like a really consistent, sometimes flats, like I'm sure you can do it with rounds, but if it's like a P bass with no back pickup, the OC3, the OC2, the EHX, like that's what they like. If you confuse it with like the two pickup or like a heavily EQ'd sound,
they track it a lot better on those.
Yeah, they just like, you hear them like auto tuning, like in the back.
Yeah. Well, I guess that kind of gets us into a spot. We haven't really talked about what else is sitting on your board. Like, are you one of those guys that's like, yeah, I got a phaser on there, or are you kind of keeping it simple, like on top of your preamps?
Phaser just stun.
I try to keep the fun stuff at the house. You know, probably better.
No
probably
fun on the road.
No, I mean just better for everyone that way. You know, I mean it's like why I don't know. I'm kind of talking about not even using compression next year, like not even adding a compressor to it.
We throw it back and forth all the time.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
I use it very lightly.
Yeah, I mean it's bass, man. It's like it's not the most dynamic instrument if you're playing it.
100%.
You know, like it's not that. Like we like to think like, oh man, like it's gonna tame my playing, but man, like if you need that much help, doing that to your playing.
Yeah,
I agree. It is. It's like a fail safe in a way, I guess. You know, to some degree, but like front of house is going to have hopefully some kind of fail safe compression on, or a limiter of some sort. You know, anyway. I mean, So, and I think.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, but like I saw y'all talking about. I had that API compressor, that transformer.
Yeah,
I do have that one, and I like it just to grab like some of that transformer muscle.
Yeah.
You know, kind of at the end, and I don't even really like compression at the very end of things, but I just liked it kind of in that spot.
No, that's cool.
Taking care of that. More is just like a very nuanced tone thing.
It does add a tone. I like the tone more than I maybe even like the compression from it. I like how it sounds when it's on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, get it as transparent as you can with the compression settings and just let it go through it. I mean,
yeah, they're great.
How I used it.
Yeah, they're great circuits. I mean, the API stuff doesn't miss. Like it.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I wonder if they've ever. I mean, the big thing they made, the transformer big guy that I was using for a long time, was really fun with that EQ on there and stuff. I mean, I understand why they redesigned it into 2 little pedals, but the big one was really cool. It had a lot of charm, and it certainly sounded really good.
Man, I like that it comes with an inspection tag on it, and like mine had like a, it looked at by this I don't know, like that for me, that's getting pedals that have kind of that, level of just a thought put into it, and like a company like API, I just know my money's like, I don't feel like I'm getting fleeced, even though it's expensive stuff sometimes, it's like, totally. Man, they got it dialed in, but man, I've been running through, I got about 15 distortion fuzz kind of overdrive pedals sitting around my house. I got way more than I need. So I need another one like a fucking black eye, but I've been running this one. It's like a guy in Belgium that makes them, called like CMC Prototype.
I was about to ask you about that. Yeah.
CMC Audio. And for some reason, and I've been able to kind of get a higher level of, it can even get like rat tony if you use it right.
Mm-hmm. Super cool.
But it's, he kind of found like a fixed ratio of clean to distort it, like to clean to dry to wet ratio, I guess. And instead of giving you like a blend knob, and he was just like, that's what it's going to be. So for me, when I find those, like we were talking about with a lot of knobs, I like a little baked in tone too, and there's some knobs on that one, but they're all real usable. And I've been finding that as like a cool way to add some grease to it.
Is it a fuzz or is it an overdrive? You probably said that, but or somewhere.
Man, it's like a drive that it's like based on like those. I'm gonna say this wrong. Like I think it's a Red Llama CMOS type kind of fuzz.
Yeah.
It's based on like that kind of circuitry, I think.
Nice,
but with a little kind of different spin-offs with like there's like some scooping options, and if you like want to take low mids out of your distortion. Right. Like it'll protect the clean tone, but you'll only kind of tweak the distortion if you want to like get that really like that kind of two-tone sound, that like the Tim Comerford old stuff, like you're hearing it and it's like, damn, that's. So I've been living with that one pretty much, and like that in some of the saturation out of the Capo, or like I have one sitting here. It's called an organ grinder. Some guy named Greg Lounsbury makes these in like Maryland, and I just love it. It's like playing through a little amp, like just on its own. So
super cool.
I don't know, and that's got 2 knobs on it, So I was like,
so you're mostly an overdrive fuzz guy, like that's
and like kind of stacking them too,
cool.
So like stack in with the 2-channel setup, you have a lot more freedom. You can kind of harass your sound guy with a lot more abrasive stuff if you want to, because he can, he can fall back on the clean one, So,
right.
I mean, just finding ways to kind of make order of pedals that kind of play nice with each other. And, noise is a big thing on our side too, because we have a lot of, we don't run any tracks or anything. So Parker might just be talking for 5 minutes, and it's, if there's people's fuzzes are turning off, because they're about to dive into the next song, and you got to click them off. Like I just haven't had any problems with too much of that, luckily. And
love that.
I'll probably throw a compressor on there because I have the board space and don't want it to go to waste. But my board's going to look a lot more complicated than it is for sure.
That's what it's all about, right?
It really is, man.
Juking people out. Throw the API on. Throw the Noble. They'll look at it,
right?
And they'll give you their respect.
Yeah, put a ready on it.
Just a full Avalon on the bottom.
With the Avalon and the.
Here's something I picked up on the cheap that I was looking for a while. It's called a bug crusher.
Okay,
like a little bit. It's a bit crusher.
Okay,
but it's like.
I like bit crushers a lot.
It's not digital though; it's analog. So I don't know how they achieve it, but it's a little noisy. But man, like a little bit of bit crushing sounds pretty cool on bass as like a means of getting some breakup. And nice. I wouldn't lean into it too much, or show up at your next show with one by any means if you haven't played with it. But
honestly, when I experimented with a bit crusher, I had the There's like a Source Audio multi-effects synthesizer pedal that's just one pedal spot, but you can like use your phone to load up presets on the pedal.
That's so Source Audio.
Yeah, it is very Source Audio. But I was just playing one time and I was going through and I found a Bit Crusher. I was like, oh, this actually sounds fantastic, because I was not getting along with the EHX based microsynth. But there's this one particular sound that everybody likes it to do. And I felt like I could make a Bit Crusher make that microsynth sound, without any of the drawbacks. The biggest drawback being you can't use anything below a low A on any of the octave pedals. And so I could put on a Bit Crusher and have a 5-string and go like low, low, low. And it was like my last chorus little kick sometimes.
Dude, and those things like shoved into an octave pedal, like you were saying, like if you have whatever one you want, I mean, they sound huge. Yeah. I mean, real big. And they have like that fizzy tone kind of that swirls around the top end. I mean, it, I'm sure it'd give people fits out front, but I mean, to me, it's a really cool effect. And if you can kind of blend those in a smart way, I mean, I haven't seen a ton of guys do it like in a live application, but
I feel like a lot of people, I think you can hide it. I think nobody would ever know, but I have noticed the psychology of it, of like, do not turn that pedal on and noodle before the show, because everyone be like, what are you doing? That sounds like total crap.
Yeah. No, that's funny though, because I feel like, maybe in like the way that your mind would think, you're like, last chorus, like I need that boost, and you'd be like, I just need to like open up the floodgates. But realistically, the boost we're looking for is to narrow our band.
Sometimes,
I don't know. I feel like if that's really what it's doing, I mean, that would be cutting off like the ends of the wavelengths, really, right?
Well, it's like the issue you would have when you haven't turned your sample rate on correctly on your interface, and then you listen to it through lot. It's like a Bit Crush is like a sample rate mismatch almost. Like it's, I don't know. You'd think of it like digital.
Yeah, like degrades it really, like the quality of it. So like, like those old like Nintendo games, like that kind of crunchy
8-bit,
like 8-bit stuff, right? So and I don't know what the hell this thing does as far as like if it goes to 6 bits or 7 bits or what, but I mean it's just got a blend knob on it, so you can just you can goose it and just let it ride. I mean, but again, I think it's a cool thing. But I don't know, man. I got a prunes and custard sitting over there, like one of those kind of filtery distortion things. I don't know if you've ever seen those. They're kind of cool. They're worth checking out. Some guy, I think he's out of New Zealand, but I don't know. I have like a running list of pedals that I'm just kind of looking at getting as they surface that are like kind of hard to come by, and I get lucky every so often. And
I'm not a connoisseur of fuzz at all, but the Team Awesome fuzz machine is really freaking cool. But that guy has apparently fallen off the face of the earth. He just like he's not, well, someone said online at least that he's not dead, but like
I was gonna say, a lot of pedal guys are falling off the earth, I feel like.
Yeah. Supposedly he's not dead. He lives in Philly and has a different job, but he just stopped. Website's live, Instagram's live, has not posted a single thing. Does not post on his personal Instagram, just like walked away from it one day. And then of course in typical, reverb talk-based fashion, that the value just goes way up, because everyone was kind of talking about it. It'd be like if the Capo, if they just woke up today and goes, and we're done, but didn't say anything. It'd be the same situation. It's a fascinating pedal world out there.
Yeah, I really need to get into this stuff, because honestly, like the drive I get, like when I've been playing these bars, I really just take my Laney, but I put a VT bass in the loop of it.
Yeah.
And I'm able to mix it in like a super fun way. But before I used to run 2 channels, and I'd send that VT bass like crushed, like absolutely slammed, because honestly, I think the hair on the Sans Amp stuff is so cool, especially when you complement it with just like a tube, like beef, like right. Like I think it's so cool. Like timeless isn't the right word, but it will be a cool sound forever. Like it's maybe it is time. I don't know, whatever.
No, I think it's timeless.
I just don't. Yeah. I don't end up adding a lot of drive through the board usually. Like I don't know. I think so long. I don't know. I've just been afraid of like really crushing some of the low end, but now I'm like, I think I want to ruin some of the low end sometimes. I think I can. Like I think I can
tighten it.
Yeah, I think I can put it through just like a tube screamer. Like I think I can. I've got like Morning Glory, like the JHS on my board, super light, super transparent. But you're like on my guitar board, and I'm like, why don't I yank that off and throw it on, or like just some kind of something. I'm like, I think I'm more okay with it these days. I really need to get into this world.
Yeah, just not being like afraid.
I mean,
we were talking about it. I mean, with the Capo stuff. I mean, it's like kind of what we're dealing with now is like you play a big stadium. If it's like inside, they're not going to use low end in the mix. No. I mean, you have kick drum and you have maybe like some like floor tom hitting every now and then like what bass is going to be used in that mix that's not going to be just garbage sounding is going to be like some of those distortion overtones in the last 4 speakers of the split out front. You know what I mean? Like you're just maybe some high mid stuff that he can fit, but I mean, there's too much stuff happening. So like a big clean boomy tone is just going to hurt me in that regard.
I totally agree.
But then the next week you might need to actually have like a theater show where you have way less drive and distortion on that, so I think the key there is for sure finding like a nice blend or somewhere you can protect a little bit of your low end. But I mean, I've rarely had a guy ask me for more low end out front. They're never like, man, goose that thing a little more, please.
Unfortunately, we have to wrap up. I do have one kind of last question, and you kind of are already flirting with it, but in a band the size that you're playing in and using in-ears and that kind of stuff, what have you learned about your tone and what tone a bass player, most bass players should probably approach a big band like that with? Is it using overdrive? Is it using EQ? Are you boosting mids? That kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's like I'm a support role, essentially, right? We have a band full of lead players, and I'm not one of them, right? So bass and drums need to kind of just that consistency, I guess, is key there. So like a nice, consistent tone that's not going to throw people off. And of course, you have your own levels on in-ears, right? I've learned that like my best tone in a mix sounds like dog shit on its own. I mean, it's gross.
That's a big moment in a trajectory.
It's gross. I mean, like you'll be sitting there grooving with the tone that you have in your room, or even just on stage, and it sounds good and fat and warm and stuff. And like, man, fat and warm is not heard a whole lot in like bigger shows.
True.
I mean, it's just not. And that's my world where I come from. So I had to kind of learn how to just add a little more harshness to it. And play with the pick when it calls for it, even though I was so against it for a while, trying to be a purist, but that and just learning how to listen, man.
Do you think that ends up with more like that high midi area or low midi, or are you scooping some of the muddy mid out? And
yeah, I think high mids and like, I don't know. It's a fine line between making that sound like horrible and good, but, there's that range where all the instruments are kind of jumbled up with mud, and you're not going to be priority number one on your front of house guys mix. Like, I got to make this bass player shine, so, and it's thankless work, boys. You know how it goes sometimes, like,
oh buddy,
some of us are cut out for it. Some of us aren't, but just knowing when to talk to your front of house guys, man, like sound guys, even if you think they're an idiot, like they rent a guy that's just there to get you through your show. Just talk to sound people, like figure out what's being used, and your bandmates are a good reference point for that too. Sometimes,
totally.
Sometimes
we always say just like buddy with whoever's running the board.
Yeah, we've talked about that so many times.
Oh, dude,
because it's like
it's crucial,
universal.
It's great advice.
I've never seen like a clickbait bullshit YouTube video that's like 12 talk to your sound. What bass players need to know. 5 tips.
No, man,
you want blah blah blah. Talk to your sound guy.
They want somebody jumping in with all the, as many expressions as they can make all at once, as they're playing it's just, I don't know. I ain't the one for that, man. But
yeah. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Man, thank y'all for having me.
Thank you for sending us the Jad Freer pedal to check out in the first place. We're super thankful for you and your early support of the show too. Like this has been long overdue, and we're honored that you came.
No, again, man, anytime, and I'll send you guys a little care package with some pedals sometime. I'm sure I have some.
Man, you're gonna cost me so much money, bro. You're ruining the wallet. Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, man, thanks for coming on, and I guarantee we'll bump into each other eventually. But next time you're around, we'll get you in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Till next time.
Yeah. See y'all.